Take it away, Jacinta.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome the Island Getaways Travel Tribe and a special hello to my fellow USC alumni. Thank you for joining us today for the next installment in our virtual vacations series. I am Jacinta Pereira, the owner and founder of Island Getaways. I started the company 24 years ago, and next year, 2022, will be the 25th anniversary of my company. As the CEO, the Chief Experience Officer of my company, I am a certified islands expert, but I'm also an accredited and master cruise counselor and river cruise specialist. I have over 30 years of personal and professional cruise experience on cruises of all sizes and types worldwide. In 2011, I actually researched river cruising because I recognized that it would be a hot travel trend. In 2012, I actually went on my first AMA Waterways cruise tour, which is a combination of pre and post land segments with a 7-night river cruise. This is one of the companies that emerged at the top of my list in my research, and I was very pleasantly surprised by the experience, which exceeded my expectations. So I've been happy to recommend them and arrange river cruise tours with AMA Waterways since 2012. I actually lived in Europe for 6 years, and I have traveled to France several times myself from north to south, but I'm certainly not the expert. So we do have someone who is much more experienced with this, and I'll introduce him in just a moment. Right now, I'd like to reintroduce Brian Rodemacher, who is a business manager with AMA Waterways. He's been with the AMA family since 2017, but he has decades of experience with major cruise lines in the travel industry. He's joining us from Sonoma County, and he's very fortunate to have wine country in his backyard, and I'm sure he enjoys that in his free time. Brian will be doing a quick recap of river cruising because it is very, very different from ocean cruising. But I do want to introduce our special guest expert, Sebastian Lewis, who is coming to us from Florida. He's joining us from the East Coast. Sebastian is a French native. He actually grew up in Le Havre, Normandy in France. And he's multilingual. He studies several languages. So in addition to French, he also speaks English, German, and he says he's been working on improving his Spanish, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty good already. He also studied oenology and did work as a winemaker in Germany for quite a few years. I believe it was 8 years, correct? Yes. Right. So he has that experience to bring as well. He has been a cruise manager with AMA Waterways since 2012. And a cruise manager is the person that's in charge of the travel arrangements and actually works directly with the travelers in the destination. At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Brian before Sebastian takes over and takes us on a virtual journey through the rivers and regions of France, showing us real possibilities of what you can see, do, and experience. And we'll be talking about travel for next year, 2022, at the end of the meeting. So right now, I'd like to hand it over to Brian to start our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacinta. And hey, everyone, I'm indeed Brian Rodemacher, and yes, Sonoma County, where the mustard, blooming of the mustard seeds are in full bloom, bright yellow all around us, so it's quite nice. I wear my sort of, well, more golden, but similar color. So thank you for taking time out of your day. Thank you to Jacinta for this series of webinars that we are doing. Very grateful for that. And thank you to Sebastian as well. I'll introduce him more formally here in a little bit, but we're very fortunate to have Sebastian because he's the man when it comes to talking about France, certainly as a French native and as a cruise manager, because as Jacinta mentioned, that particular position, they are truly the ringmasters, if you will, circus masters, I call them, on the ship. They kind of juggle many different responsibilities and whatnot, in addition to knowing all about the destination. So it's quite the position. So we're very glad to have Sebastian with us. 2 housekeeping notes. One is there's a question box there for you. And we encourage you type in your questions as you think of them. That's probably the best thing to do. And then we're going to address those later on. And then second, this is being recorded, and Jacinta has an excellent track record of people coming to actually either watch the webinar if you're here in person and see it again. I don't know if we're that good, but nonetheless, or you share it with the link with your your other friends, family, colleagues, etc., and they watch and learn. And so we'll send that to Jacinta a little later today. So those are the two housekeeping notes. And so without, I guess, further ado here, I'm going to jump into the actual webinar and begin. So that picture and the title, of course, the iconic rivers and regions of France. And certainly there's really no more iconic city in the world than Paris, right? And when I think of Paris, certainly the Eiffel Tower, but I'm a Hemingway fan. And I have to tell you real quickly, there is a book that's a nonfiction Hemingway book that is practically, I think I would say, my favorite book by Hemingway. And it is set in the 1920s in Paris when Hemingway lived there with many expatriate artists and authors and painters, etc. Anyway, the book is called A Movable Feast. And if you've never read that book by Ernest Hemingway, I'm telling you, it paints a wonderful picture of Paris that still exists to this day. So that's my book recommendation before we start, is this book by Hemingway, A Movable Feast. Let's keep going here. And there we are officially in our nice duds, nice attire. Sebastian in his cruise manager attire there. And there's Jacinta's contact information. That's very important. Her phone number and her email address there. I'll show this again towards the end of the presentation, but that's good contact information because she can answer questions, obviously make your reservation for you. She's extremely knowledgeable in all things travel and certainly all things on the waterways. All right. And so again, we say thank you, or merci, certainly today in French and in many different languages, for joining us. I will tell you that, as I mentioned earlier, we're doing a series of webinars, which is cool. And so the next webinar I want to give a plug to is coming up next Thursday, March 18th at 12 p.m. And this will have, again, Sebastian join us. Thank you, Sebastian, for joining us. And in this instance, we're going to be doing a presentation called The Four Seasons on the Danube River, right? So you don't want to miss that. That'll be equally as excellent as today. And then the following Thursday on March 25, also at 12 noon, we're going to delve into the UNESCO World Heritage Area of Portugal, the Douro River and the Douro River Valley. And we'll have a special guest presenter for that particular webinar as well. And this is a person that has done that particular itinerary, and I have not, to be candid, so I'd rather have someone come and join us who has done that itinerary. That makes sense. So those are the two upcoming webinars that you'll want to think about joining us for in the future. Now, we always show this image. This image is obviously evocative in so many different ways, but it's also the axiom that is absolutely factual. Obviously, oceans take you to countries while rivers take you through them. And that is indeed true. So these rivers that were the roads of old and continue to be to this day, the towns and the villages and the cities that you visit, this happens to be the Rhine where this picture was taken, these all emanated from the river, right? And so really quite a lovely, lovely way to do Europe. We like to say we travel through sort of the veins of Europe to the heart of Europe, right? And as we talk about France today, again, you'll see the many different iconic regions and rivers you have an opportunity to cruise through. You're always, obviously, too, within a given country's boundaries as well. And then certainly the ships are much more intimate in size, much smaller in size. So there's many different aspects that made river cruising popular pre-COVID that are going to continue to make river cruising popular in the post-COVID era as well, right? So important to mention. This is our new sort of thematic picture and axiom, heart of the river. The word ama comes from the word amare, the Latin word to love, and we make the heart symbols all the time. So we like to say, ama waterways, we are the heart of the river. And I'm going to show now a little video, very short, that's about our sort of our brand essence, if you will. So let me show that. All things being equal, let's pull it off here. Here we go.
Step aboard a world of exceptional experiences, where your journey is our passion. Allow us to share villages that time forgot. Walk along cobblestone streets filled with the lights. Paddle through historic town squares and revel in moments that last a lifetime. When you step aboard Ama Waterways, each day brings a genuine smile that warms the heart. Every river a new culture that inspires. And each course a moment to savor and share. Experience these wonders and delights with Ama Waterways, the heart of the river.
All right, indeed. So this particular image, why us? I'm not of a mindset to read a slide to you. There's nothing worse than a presenter that's going to read every single bullet point to you. So I'm not going to do that, but you can peruse those at your leisure and kind of find the ones that jump out to you that may be important on your list of things that are important. But I like to say that these are the brand truths, the marketing truths, the things that we bring to the table for your experience with us. And so certainly those are all absolutely true. In the picture there, you also see the Berlitz rating. We're very happy about that as well. Berlitz, Frommer's, Fodor's, those were the triumvirate of travel guides in the past that people would read. And certainly to this day, Berlitz does a cruise guide, both for ocean and for river. And you know what? They send out their mystery shoppers because the author, Douglas Ward, is too famous to go on the ships. Everybody knows him and they throw out their A game when he shows up. So the mystery shoppers go out and they rate the vessels. And so we're very proud of the fact that Berlitz indeed has rated our ships in Europe as the best, right? So go ahead, Jacinta. Yes.
There are a couple of points I do want to make. This is a long list and we don't expect you to read it. One of the major differences between the river cruising and ocean cruising is size. We're talking about very, very small numbers. So AMA was operating in 2020 on a limited basis in Europe with local residents, not international travelers. And we're talking about maximum of 100 passengers. We're not talking 1,000, 3,000, 5,000 like you have on ocean going vessels. You're not out in open water. This is very, very small. So it's very important post-COVID that you know that the numbers are very small. That's going to be a major factor with travel reopening and your comfort level. The other thing is that the tours and activities and experiences in each location are also very, very small. Pre-COVID, the maximum number in a tour group would be 20. During COVID, it has been reduced to 10. We can see that relaxing a little bit over time going into 2022. But again, we're talking about very, very small numbers. The other key difference with ocean cruising is that, of course, your meals are all included, but beverages are included on the AMA Waterways river cruises. So bottled water, sodas, beer, wine with lunch and dinner. Also, a very nice happy hour is included. So this is another major difference.
For sure. Thank you for that. Indeed. Yeah, the sort of word that comes to mind is intimacy. So intimate ships, and that is that points to smaller vessels. And so that is indeed part of the reason that river cruising, as I say, pre-COVID was popular and post-COVID the same. And so thank you for pointing those things out. But certainly all of these things, as I said earlier, we definitely bring to the table and we bank on it for sure. So let's continue. And we, Sebastian and I are, I think, fortunate to work for these folks, right? So we are family owned since 2002. And Rudy, Christine, and Gary, and believe me when I tell you, I worked at a competitive river cruise line and there was palpable jealousy at that river cruise line for these folks because they are passionate, they're down to earth, wonderful people. They're also prudent as well. You might have seen the financial stability factor, which I'll mention here momentarily. But in any event, Rudy is the acknowledged godfather of North American river cruising, both anecdotally and officially. And so he helped get the river cruise market and marketing of river cruising started way back, particularly in early 90s when the Rhine-Main-Danube Canal opened. And that allowed for people literally to be able to get on a ship in Amsterdam and go all the way to the Black Sea, right? So Rudy knew that that was going to be a popular way to travel. Anyway, long story short, Viking, he was involved with Uniworld, Avalon, but he didn't own any of those companies. So in 2002, he decided, you know what, I'm going to start my own company, and that's us, Ama Waterways. And then he likes to say, I build them and she fills them, she being Christine Karst, he being Viennese from Austria, she being German from then East Germany outside of Dresden on the Elbe River. And so she's really the heart and soul of the company is Christine Karst. And then our raconteur, also owner, Gary Murphy with Irish roots. His dad, Jimmy Murphy, threw in his lot with Rudy and Christine back in '92. Mr. Murphy passed away several years ago, but Gary continues the lineage of the Murphy family with Ama Waterways. So, as I say, very passionate, very down-to-earth, wonderful folks, and very prudent. What I mean by prudent, guess what, folks? There's zero debt. All of the ships are paid for in advance, including the 3 new ships coming this year, all paid for. You know, I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about my debt, and Rudy says I like to sleep at night, and he can sleep at night because we have zero debt. So that's a very enviable position to be in the current environment and travel, which has taken a hit, obviously. So it's nice to know that the company you're going to make reservations with is going to be around for the long haul, and indeed we are. Now, Jacinta mentioned this, and I'll just say this, that indeed we were fortunate, I suppose, last summer from early July till the, I think, second week in November, thereabouts, about 4.5 months, where we did cruise in Europe on the Rhine River with the Ama Christina for the German-speaking audience, Austrians, Swiss, Germans. I know we had some Belgians on. What that allowed us to do in chartering to a German tour operator, obviously, was to put into practice those health and safety protocols that are so important. And yes, there was a limited number of guests that we could carry, a maximum of 100. But the cool thing is that 2 things happened that made it incredibly successful. One is we had no cases of COVID, right? So that is successful in and of itself, that we got through the season without having any cases of COVID. That's very important. And you might say, well, that was lucky, but luck is the residue of design, quite frankly. And the second thing is that we are able to then say, obviously, we're the only US-based river cruise company doing this. So we were in the game. We're not on the sidelines. We're actually participating. So the successful aspect of what we learned, and the word invaluable comes up, right? So we can carry that over when we start to cruise again this year, whenever it might be. We're not sure yet, but that experience we gained last year will be very helpful as we move forward into the new environment that we're in. Now, if you want to check out more details about this kind of thing, if that is of interest to you in terms of your level of confidence in traveling with this, you can just go to this site, amawaterways.com, and /travel-updates. It'll be cashed out for you there in writing. But suffice it to say that we put all those into practice, you know, certainly last summer, and would do the same as we move forward this year. The other thing that's important to mention, people want, our guests, clients of Jacinta's want peace of mind, certainly, but flexibility when it comes to making your reservations. So I just want to tell you that there are different programs to give you added flexibility. You need to have travel insurance. That is a no-brainer. That's a must-do. These are optional things, what's called the Ultimate Cruise Flexibility Program or the Travel Waiver Plus program. These are just additional elements where you can give yourself further flexibility, and very important to be aware of. And these have been offered now through the end of this month, the end of March. Now, not sure whether they're going to be extended or not, but for as it stands right now, they're available through the end of March, and then Jacinta can tell you more about that. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our special guest. Yes.
I just want to just recap 2 really important points that you made. AMA does have financial stability and security, and AMA is tried and true in terms of COVID health and safety protocols. That's all.
Bingo. Yeah. It's, I mean, those are, you know, two pretty important aspects, and they were in that long laundry list of why AMA waterways, right smack in the middle. We never used to talk about health and safety. We've always practiced it as a rule, but we've never put it as a DNA or warp and woof of the company, but now it is for obvious reasons, and now we've been able to put it into practice, right? And then we never used to talk about financial stability either. Why, you know, that was just not something that we talked as a matter of course. You don't say, and by the way, we're also financially stable, but people want to know that now. So, and frankly, we as employees didn't know how financially stable we were, at least I didn't, until last spring when they came out and said, this is how stable we are. All of our ships are paid for. We're like, wow, that is stable. So that's nice. Okay. Thank you, Jacinta, for that, for reiterating that. Those are very important. Let's go. So here comes from Naples, not Italy, but Florida, Mr. Sebastian Lewis, who is our fabulous cruise manager and presenter for today on the iconic rivers and regions, or regions and rivers of France. So take it away, Sebastian.
Thank you. Thank you. Very, very good presentation of the company. I'm very impressed by what you two have done. But, you know, I will just tell you one thing before starting. Health and safety was not necessarily advertised before the cruise, but I can tell you that the safety of the guests as a cruise manager and as my colleagues on board, captain, etc., this was the first thing. Every time you come on board the ship, the first thing the captain would say is your safety and your health is our top priority, and this has been from day one. So now I'm glad to see that that the message has been brought outside the ships, but message was always there. And I will talk a little more about these beautiful places in France, and trust me, we have quite a few. I was just thinking about these 5 regions or these areas that we have that we will be talking about. And I will have to make some choices because I was thinking about what tours or what should you not miss. And then I just did my little calculation in the past 3 slides. And I'm like, I would have to make the choice between 85 to 90 different tours that are included on these itineraries that we will talk about now. So I'll do my best to give you an overview of the regions. They are beautiful, and we will start let's say by welcoming you on board, and that's what we always do. So welcome to this virtual tour. I can't wait to take you on a real tour very soon. And my colleagues, trust me, just an hour before being with you folks, I was actually with my colleagues, cruise managers, and guess what? They've been preparing for the past 4 months, and it's a pool of 70 people. And today was how to improve our public speaking and we choose specific itineraries each and every week. And we talk to each other, and you know, there's nothing more difficult to talk to a panel of 65 of your peers who are here, who know the destination exactly as well as you do, and they will tell you, okay, this is great, it's absolutely amazing what they're doing, and trust me, they're ready to welcome everybody on board. So let's go in Normandy. Let's start with Normandy, a beautiful region, and you will see. So Brian, if you want to jump, and I really like this picture. No, I mean, we say northern France. That's, for me, that's Normandy. And when I say for me, I'm from Normandy originally. Le Havre is at the end of the Seine River, and this little picture here, it's in Vernon. So Vernon is a village that is located approximately 4 miles away from another small village. There are no big towns in Normandy. It's called Giverny, and Giverny is the place where Claude Monet spent the largest part of his life and with his wife. And when you just look at this little water mill that you just saw there, this is what inspired him, and not only him. We will see that in this area of the world, I mean, there's a lot of history, but there are also a lot of artists that have been there. And we have in this area 2 different cruises, 2 different itineraries. If you look at the one on the right, which is called Paris and Normandy, this is the one that we created in 2014. So in 2014, and basically this one starts in Paris and it finishes in Paris. And the Seine River is a very short one. compared to a river like the Danube, for example, it's just 8 times the length of the Seine River, or even the Rhine, that is 3.5 times the length of the Seine. But the Seine River is absolutely wonderful because it is peaceful, it is quiet, and it changes, the scenery changes almost every day. So we have really the time to go there and back, start in Paris, finish in Paris. But for those of you, and we listened a lot to our guests, you know, I mean, of course, we've been talking about financial stability because this was a question that people have asked us. Will you guys be there in 2 years when and frankly, as a cruise manager, you want to know, will I still be working in 2 years or not? But we listen to our guests in as much as we can. As when we hear, we think you could do this better, or not even necessarily better, but hey, that would be a great idea to extend here or there. It takes a few months, sometimes it takes a few years, but after a few years, you see that we have a new, so that's why it's written, impressions of the Seine in Normandy. Impressions, of course, refers to Impressionism. So that's the movement that was created by Claude Monet. But we want to give you a real impression, an idea, something that will stick with you all the time, but not only the river. Then you will want to go and see a wonderful area of France that is called Brittany as well, because as Jacinta just mentioned, the cruise is at the heart. And that's why we are the heart of the river, and the heart of our product is really the cruise. But also very important is what we do before and after the cruise. And these pre and post extensions have, for me, they have a great value for the guests. The pre-extension is great because you arrive. I mean, and don't forget, I mean, if you're on the West Coast, but you will have probably an 11 or 12 hours flight if you take a direct flight to Paris. So there is a good chance that you might have, it might be a little bit jet lagged. I mean, unless you're doing this every week, which would be great for you, but this is not the majority of all of us. And so that's why these pre and post extensions are always there. You know, the pre-extension, you arrive, you can rest, you discover the city, and you have the time. And then when your trip, your cruise starts, then you're really here. I mean, you're back, you've been sleeping, you're invigorated, and you will enjoy all your trip. So there are sites that are very important, of course. When you think Normandy, you think of, I mean, the majority of us think of the World War II landing beaches. And of course, this is a site that we will see. History is at the heart of this region. I just want to emphasize on something. The World War II landing beaches, that's one day. We take you there for a full day, but that's one day. The history of Normandy, when you think about the name Normandy, the Normans, these were the men coming from the north. Northmen, Norman, Normandy. And then you have a term that came very recently, and I say very recently because it's not even 150 years old. It's the term Viking. The term Viking is not an old one. It's only from the 19th century. And actually the Northmen were the Vikings. So we will hear about how they came, what villages did they create. And the most famous of them is this little one here, Honfleur. And Honfleur, I mean, it's a super small fisherman's village, nestled, completely hidden. And everybody says, oh, it's so beautiful because it's hidden. And people usually don't know that this was a war technique for the Vikings. They were hiding their villages so that when the ships were coming, nobody would see the village and they could attack you from behind. So it looks beautiful, but there are really a lot of little different stories in these areas of the world. You will learn about, of course, William the Conqueror, because when you have this little place here called Bayeux, that's where you have the tapestry of Bayeux, or the tapestry of the Queen Mathilde, as we call it, which really retraces. It's a 230-foot document, it's 230 foot long, and it retraces the years 1064 to 1066, where the Dukes of Normandy conquered England, the only time in history. So, and the Brits still don't like us for that. But that's a side note as well. And then you have this artistic part, because everybody talks about Claude Monet, which is true. I mean, Claude Monet is very, very important. Nobody ever talks about his teacher, Eugène Boudin, and you will learn about Eugène Boudin when you will go to Le Havre, which is my city. That's where I was born. And actually, I was born and raised approximately 50 yards away from the place where Claude Monet made his first paintings, which were impressions of the Seine in the morning. And that's the name Impressions came because a journalist asked him, because it was blurry. If you remember, if you've seen the Impressionism, nothing is very clear. It's always a little bit blurry. And that's what. And then the journalist asked Claude Monet, "But what is that?" And he said, "These are my impressions." And that's where the term Impressionism was born. And so you will see Monet. You will learn about Boudin. You will learn about Renoir. Renoir was there as well. You will learn about Camille Pissarro. You will learn about the Barbizon, the so-called Barbizon school, and many also contemporary artists. In Giverny nowadays, you have a beautiful place that is dedicated to contemporary impressionist painters. And if we want to take a look a little bit, Brian, if we look at the next pages, we will just do a little recap of what we've just talked about. The Normandy Beaches. So you will get to learn, and depending on the itinerary you will choose, you will have the choice between the US sector, between the Canadian sector or the UK sector, because also we know that this operation, this Neptune operation, which was part of the Overlord operation, was sectorized. We cannot go too far. We do not go to Utah Beach. Utah Beach is way too far. But you can see gold, you can see Juno. You go, of course, to Omaha, see the village of Arromanches, which you see here at low tide, where you still have some of the barges that you can see. So really a great day there. You visit the Colville Cemetery, of course. So really a memorable day. Many people, to my guess, when they go there, come back at the end of the day, because you leave at 8:30 in the morning, you come back at 6:30 at night. And people say it was a long day, but it was a day that they will not forget. It is absolutely beautiful. And if you go to the next slide, you will see the bridge of the Japanese garden, and the bridge of the Japanese garden in Giverny. So here you see our captain on the left, Geoffrey, the captain of our Amalira, and then two of our dear colleagues, Leo and Wade, who are actually overseeing our European operation. And it is a great place. I remember taking guests there, and some of them coming and not even following the tour, but they came with their painting material and they started painting because they had seen in l'Orangerie, for example, or even in New York, in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, you have the Nymphéas. I mean, Claude Monet painted them 75 times, so they're pretty much everywhere. And they started painting because they wanted to do that. So there are the tours. We will take you to all these places with the guides, and you will get the information. But me and my colleagues, we always say, follow the tours if you want to follow them. But if you want to be a little more independent, feel free. You're on vacation. And vacation means that you're here to do what you want, not to be following somebody all the time. If you want to take a bike and go and take a look yourself, look at this. And these are the wheat fields painted by Van Gogh in Auvers-sur-Oise. Maybe you want to just take a look yourself at the wheat fields. If you know about Vincent and you've been to Auvers before, maybe, if you came on your own, why not taking the time and do something a little bit different on your own? The only thing that I always ask my guests, there's one thing that I ask: please be back before the ship departs. That's the only thing. The rest, we are fine. We do what you want. And these are absolutely fantastic trips. Then you have, and the land packages, as I mentioned, and so the pre-land package, you're docked. Now that's the cruise manager coming back. Even in a hotel, we say that we are docked somewhere. We stay in hotels in Paris that we feel are significant. We will stay at the Maison Astor, and the Maison Astor, or you will stay, is a very small hotel. So it's a boutique hotel. It's 40 rooms only. It's in the 9th district, and it's located exactly in the middle of the Opera and the Arc of Triumph. And why is it of significance? Why? Because Mr. Astor, John Jacob Astor, was an American, actually. He had this Hôtel Particulier in Paris. He had a very bad end of his days. Actually, this poor man, he died on the Titanic. He went down with the Titanic. But his hotel is still there, l'Hôtel Particulier, which is the house. And they made it a beautiful little hotel, which you have on the next slide. I believe, and it is really unique. There is nobody else going there. You won't see, you know, like in these 1,000 room hotels that you can find in the 14th district, and then you will see Viking and then the Avalon, and God, no, you won't find that with us. That's for sure, because we choose small places for our guests only. And of course, when we have the land packages, what happens? The breakfast is included, and what we do, so because you are received and welcomed by the cruise manager from the moment you arrive, and what we like to do is also to take you on an orientation walk. So it's not a guided tour, because the guided tour you will have it the next day. But what is important is when you arrive, you want to be situated, because obviously, I mean, if you're going there, there's a very good chance you've never been in this part of the city, so you might want to get used a little bit to your area to find, I don't know, maybe tomorrow morning you will not want to take the breakfast in the hotel, but you want to be like a French and you want to go in a cafe and just get your croissant and looking at the people. That's what we do. We're very good at that. You know, French people, you take a coffee, you eat a croissant, and you look at the others and you criticize them. That's what we do. And we've done that. There's even a book, you see, given by a colleague of mine, cruise manager, to talk about this new Brittany extension. And how is it called? 1,000 Years of Annoying the French. And that's written by a British person, okay? And these are absolutely amazing places. I mean, we show you where to go. Maybe you will need a pharmacy. If you need a pharmacy, you come to us. We will help you. Maybe you want to know where an ATM would be, because of course you will use your credit card, but it's always good to have a little bit of cash. You don't need to walk around with 500 euros, but like you would have, you know, 20 euros, $20 you would have here. We will show you where to have that. And same thing, when you arrive the first evening, you might want to have dinner. So we will show you where to go. What are the good places? Because we all know it's everywhere the same. If you want to have a good dinner, you don't go on the Champs-Élysées where you will pay 6 times the price to have a pizza Pinot nobody cares about. No, you go in the little side streets. You're in the little restaurant that doesn't look, you know, super modern, etc. Nothing is really straight. That's the place where you want to go. So we will show you all that. That's the important in the start of the cruise, and we are there for the entire duration. So also on the post-land package, we're there with you. So anytime you have a question, come with us. So these are the 2 landmarks that I mentioned, and the Arc of Triumph at the top of the Champs-Élysées, and l'Opéra Garnier, which we will also let you visit. Absolutely amazing. You will learn about the story of the Phantom of the Opera. I mean, it's just a little detail for us, but I know that all around the world, the most important part of the Opéra Garnier is the Phantom of the Opera, so you will learn about it too. And we take you, so that's on the Paris and Normandy. We will take you to a very special place, l'Atelier de Lumière, so the workshops of light. And basically, this started on the Rhone River. You have a little village called Saint-Rémy de Provence, and Les Baux de Provence, sorry. And they have this village is a medieval village built on a cliff, and there you have the quarries of light, because inside the cliff was carved a quarry. And about 15 years ago, La Crea, which is an association of young artists, they decided to project pictures and to put that in music, and not to project them only on a wall. If you look really at the right picture, you see that it's on the floor and it's animated. So it's not something just not moving. No, it's really well done. And this year, as you can see, and I'm pretty sure that if you like some modern art, you will have already recognized who is being featured this year. You will have Salvador Dali in 2021, and also possibly 2022. And on the right is Antonio Gaudi. So really amazing. You go, you stay there for an hour, you have the music, and you're immersed, literally immersed in these art pieces. So that's what we have when we are in Paris. But when we have the impressions of the Seine in Paris, I told you that we will go to Brittany. And so we will stop in Bayeux. So Bayeux, on the way to Brittany, so I told you there is this tapestry of the Queen Mathilde. Bayeux is actually not far from the landing beaches. It's only 7 miles inland. But when you arrive there, you think that you're in a completely different country. It's a little village. It's absolutely wonderful. We will take you to Bayeux and to also another village that is called Le Bec-et-Loin. And Le Bec-et-Loin is very famous for its abbey. It has an abbey from the 12th century, but it's even more famous for the half timbered houses that they have. Not only the front of it, because when people arrive for the first time, they look at this and oh my goodness, that's so magnificent. What's really interesting there is that most of the time behind these old houses, you have an old milk farm. And that's where you will have the most amazing cheeses in the world. There is no cheese that has less, and that's Normandy. I'm sorry, for those of you who like light food, that's not the place to go, because there is no cheese there that has less than 45% of fat, okay? But it's proven that the Norman people are the ones, after the Japanese people, who live the longest in the world. So our food is what? Fat, cheese, and butter. That's what we eat. So we will take you there, and then maybe, who knows, you will stay there. You will want to stay there. It's also absolutely amazing to see how green everything is. So it is a region where it rains quite a lot, but it's not like pouring and then no. It's just a little bit of rain here, mostly at night, actually, because of the difference of temperature coming and the air from the ocean. So at night, in general, it rains. During the day, the weather is nice. I grew up saying that you can go in Normandy at any time of the year, because everywhere it's hot in August, for example, or in Normandy it will be 75. I mean, 80 would be super hot. And we say that our summer starts on August 1st and it finishes on August 8th. But that's just a very bad inside joke.
Sebastian, we need to pick up the pace a little bit, because we haven't been to Burgundy or Provence or Bordeaux yet.
We'll be there in 2 seconds. Look at that.
You have so much information, but it's a little bit too much.
That's okay. So then let's continue, Brian. We'll go to Saint-Malo. That's where you will stay. And Saint-Malo, so that's on the next picture. So it's a pirate city. And the pirate city, in the real term, you will stay at the heart of it. And from Saint-Malo, you will see on the other side of the bay, the Mont Saint-Michel. And the Mont Saint-Michel is one of the 7 old world wonders. And so that's really, I think, a great way to finish a cruise. Now, we can combine all these cruises. So now, since you were just talking about Burgundy, actually Provence and Burgundy, we can jump right there, because all these cruises, you can combine them. You don't have to do only one, because we all finish them and start them on the Thursday. So if you want to do 2 in a row, feel free to do so. And what you see here is Provence. Of course, what you see, the lavender is very purple. So this is probably a picture that was taken in June or July. That's an area where also Vincent van Gogh used to go. And that's actually the abbey that is right next to his asylum in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence. And this area of the world is completely different from Normandy, because it's way more south. It's on the Rhone River, and there you will see that the landscape literally changes every day, and the history period changes every day as well. So we will start in Arles, which is on the next slide. And Arles is a very old city. It's actually, we believe, the oldest city in France. There is always a challenge between Arles and Marseille, because they always find new arguments to say, oh, actually this city is older than the other. But Arles at the moment, about 3,000 years old. And it's a beautiful place to start a cruise. And it is where we would born the Ama Cristina, and then we would go all the way up. So that's if we take the colors of Provence. We would go to Avignon, which is the place that you see here with this bridge, which is called the Saint-Bénézet Bridge. For those of you who are familiar with Sur le Pont d'Avignon, I'm not going to sing it because we want to keep everybody online. But this is the famous Pont d'Avignon. And what you see behind is actually the Palace of the Popes. So all these places, you will visit them. One thing that is important in all of them, and that's valid for Normandy, for Provence, and also for Bordeaux, that we will see after that, take good walking shoes. Because who says lot of history or long history says cobbled stones, and who says cobbled stones means you want to have good walking shoes. Now, we take you for unique experiences. What you see here, it looks a little bit bizarre, right? But actually, that's we will take you to the Truffle Farm, and you will see how the truffle hunters actually work with their dogs, and they use dogs nowadays. So they have some specific breeds that they use, Lago Toro Magnolot, and some also crossed Labradors, because they used to use pigs. But the problem with pigs are really good at finding the truffles. Pigs have a very big problem though, is that they eat the truffles, which is defeating a little bit the purpose if you're trying to sell them. But so you will go there, you will taste as well the truffles, but then we will continue. We want to show you really different areas. And when I said that the landscape will change every day, you will see on the next picture that when we say that we have vineyards in Burgundy, actually everything is vineyards. So you have vineyards everywhere, and then sometimes you put a village here or there to have some people to go work in the vineyards, but that's pretty much how Burgundy looks like. And then if you look at the other end of the river, Brian, which is on the next slide, there you will see that the end of the Rhone River is completely flat. And that's another view on this city of Arles. And when I tell you that it's an old city, but you can already recognize here the Roman amphitheater, you have Roman bath, but in the river, we have found actually Phoenicians amphoras, which let us know actually that the trade was way before the Romans were here. So this is really a truly beautiful area of the world. There is one thing, even in summer, I like to go there in summer because people say, oh, but it must be super hot. It's not, because you are on the Rhone River, and the Rhone River has a wind which is called the Mistral, and the Mistral comes straight from the Alps. And when the Mistral starts blowing, it will not be hot anymore. From 100 degrees Fahrenheit at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you would come to 75 at 3 p.m. So it's the Mistral is really a cold wind that cools off everything. And if you look, so of course we've just seen Avignon, but the next picture is a very important city for us French people. It's Lyon. Lyon is where you will really learn about food. That's the food capital of France. That's where the two rivers, the Rhone and the Saone rivers meet. And that's where you will really be able to enjoy the second largest town in France, first of all, but really what makes France famous for food. You have almost all the possible veggies around there, and you can discover the city by bike, by walk, walking and busing, or you can simply decide that you don't want to discover the city and you want to just focus on the food aspect, and you would go to the Les Halles Paul Bocuse market, which is absolutely amazing because you don't just walk around, you taste. And if you're going to a market, to a common market, you just don't want to walk around because you will be smelling and you will get hungry. So we will let you taste different things. But you see, ways to really discover this town really by bike. It's really easy. You have bike lanes everywhere, so it's really nice. If you want to go there, you just tell your cruise manager, or you sign. Actually, you have to tell your cruise manager, and you will be signed up and go on a guided tour. On the next picture, you will see, of course, Les Halles. But then when we continue up north, we will really see amazing places. You will see the Abbey of Cluny. So Cluny, for me, is absolutely breathtaking because when you arrive there, you don't see the Abbey. You need to really look at the model, and then there is a reconstruction, a small reconstruction of the Abbey. Cluny was, before St. Peter of Rome was built, this was the largest abbey in the world, in the Christian world. It's actually just 4 feet shorter than St. Peter of Rome. It used to be really the center of knowledge for France and Western Europe when in the 10th and 11th century. So absolutely amazing. And then you will continue towards Beaune. And Beaune is an absolutely amazing place, also for history, for the medieval history. 15th century, the Hospice de Beaune that you see there, built in 1453, sorry. Really a beautiful place. Of course, the roof made it very famous, but it's also very famous for an auction nowadays, La Vente des Hospices de Beaune, where they sell the wine by the barrel. They don't sell it by the bottle. Some of the most, or actually the most expensive wines in the world are sold there. It's not rare to see a barrel going for $200,000 or $300,000. And this finances actually the work of the foundation of the Beaune Hospital. So it's still It's still like it was in the Middle Ages. The wine brings the money to finance the hospital. Absolutely amazing place to see. And of course, we don't take you only to the hospice. We want you to see the vineyards. So we go in the vineyards. When you go in the Beaujolais, you will meet a gentleman who is absolutely extraordinary, a real French, you know, a rough French who loves what he does. And he doesn't, you know, he doesn't talk too round. He will tell you the things like they are, and you will see that his wines are absolutely magnificent, and you will love him. Pascal, you will love when you go there. There are 2 pre and post extensions there as well. One in Geneva and Annecy. So that would be in this case, since we just went up, it would be the post extension where you would go to Annecy, which is we know it as the Venice of the Alps. And Geneva, and then at the other end, the possibility to have the post or pre-extension, depending on your direction, in Barcelona. And what you see here is the view from the Parkway. So again, a beautiful place by Antonio Gaudi. So that's a second region, but we're not done. We have another one. We have a last one. And this one is it's not my new. Oh, and we have also Nice and Monte Carlo. That's true. We have added Nice and Monte Carlo. But you will see there are a lot of things to discover. I told you I had to make a choice. I cannot talk about all of them. But Bordeaux, other amazing area because of, once again, the history. Of course, the wine. Everybody knows the wine. But the city of Bordeaux itself, it's located this time southwest, our friends, very close actually to the Spanish border. And we will start actually in Spain. And I'm very careful when I say that we start in Spain. Now you see these 2 and 2 down there. I should say we start in the Basque Country because it is officially Spain. But don't tell the Basque people that they are Spanish, because they will look at you and we might never find you again. No, I'm joking. But the Basque people are very proud people, and they have their own language. It's really an autochthone community. There is the Basque Country actually spans on Spain and France. The city of Saint-Jean-de-Luz, Bayonne in France, and you will see them as well, are in the Basque Country. And this is a beautiful extension that you can do before going in Bordeaux. And of course, when you're in Bordeaux, it's very special. 2 rivers, 1 estuary. And the city of Bordeaux is, for me, wonderful. Actually, after Paris, Bordeaux is the 2nd city in France with the highest number of UNESCO World Heritage protected sites. So not only the national monuments, like we will see on the next slide, which is one of them, which is probably the most famous in Bordeaux, Le Palais de la Bourse. So the old stock market, the maritime stock market. So absolutely superb. And what you see on the floor, you see it looks like a reflection. That's actually a piece of art. It's called the water mirror. And it's you have some fountains coming up, then the water stays, and you have all the other people taking pictures because it's absolutely stunning. And we visit, the ship is docked approximately 10 minutes away. That's the beauty in all the places I'm talking to you about. You're pretty much in walking distance of everything. So that's a very big difference once again with our colleagues from oceans, because when you're docked in the harbor of Barcelona, I can tell you that it's not, you cannot walk. If you're on an ocean liner, you're not walking to town. That's not happening. Unless you want to cross the Montjuic mountain, but nobody wants to do that. And so that's why you're docked there. We will visit the city of Bordeaux. We will visit Saint-Emilion. And Saint-Emilion, of course, very famous for the wine, but also for its church. And I hope you've noticed I did not talk too much about churches, because usually when people talk about Europe, they talk about churches only. But this one has to be mentioned, because what you see here, the spire on the left, that's actually the only visible part of the church. When you arrive there, you're like, where is the building? Because actually the church is carved in the cliff. So this is what you call a monolith church. This is actually the largest in Europe, 2nd largest in the world, and the largest one is in Somalia. But really an amazing place. And it was dedicated to Saint Emilion, a hermit who was there in the 9th century. And this church, you will visit it because it's not open to the public. Only the guides. You have a key, and it looks like a medieval times key, like it's that big. and they open the door, they close behind you, and you have an exclusive visit of actually this church in Saint-Emilion. And of course, there's a wine tasting. We could not take you to Saint-Emilion without tasting wine. That's very important. Then you have Bourg, so the wine festival that is organized only for AMA Waterways. We have a super relationship with this little town. So you've probably never heard of Bourg, but the French people do, because it is really the place where we get our everyday wine. The people who, nobody drinks a Chateau Margaux every day of the week. I mean, unless you can spend $750 per lunch, that's okay, but nobody does. But the wines from Bourg and Blaye, that's what we get. Now, I just wanted to show you at the end just a few pictures of the Basque Country. Of course, Bilbao, absolutely beautiful place, and also very famous for the Guggenheim Museum, which you will visit. And you spend 2 nights in Bilbao, and then you will transfer to San Sebastian. You will transfer via Guernica, which you might know for the painting of Pablo Picasso. This giant gray painting, you know, that really shows the atrocities that were done during the Spanish Civil War or repression period, we can say, with this little light bulb at the end that is just a symbol of hope, basically. So that's, you will go and visit the town of Guernica before going to this magnificent place, San Sebastian, where you will get, and your cruise manager once again will show you where to get the best tapas, but don't call them tapas, they're called pinchos there. You will get the best pinchos in the world. I mean, absolutely amazing. And you can even go to the little island there. For those of you might have heard of it, I mean, this one is called Catalina Islands. It's not the same as in LA, but it's also called Catalina Island. And it's really an amazing place. So that's what I have for you today. We'd be happy to talk more, but I know I've taken a lot of time already.
Thank you, Sebastian. That was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic, and really appreciate your insights, and look forward to having you back next Thursday to talk about the Danube. But again, thank you. And so now I'm going to present a few specials here, and then we'll get to the questions. We, on our virtual events these days, we started to make offers, and these are pretty compelling offers. They are actually buy one, get one offers, to be quite candid. And only for webinar attendees. So you're in a good place today to hear about it. This happens to be, speaking of the Danube, a romantic Danube itinerary coming up in October, so another 7 months from now, thereabouts. And this is something that, again, is a 2-for-1 opportunity. Now, you would need to make your reservations with Jacinta by March 24. So you have a couple weeks to think about this, but it is an offer, as I say, that we only make to webinar attendees. Now, if that is not going to work for you, albeit compelling as it is, any reservation you make with Jacinta in 21, 22, or believe it or not, 23, we're going to also offer you, just for attending the webinar, an additional $100 per person savings, right? So that's the webinar 2-for-1 offer. Additionally, an extra 100 per person off if you can't do that particular 2-for-1 in October. Now, this particular tactical offer I'm showing you here has been an absolute stupendous home run. And what it is and because Sebastian did such a lovely job of describing the various pre and post cruise opportunities. Yes, the river cruise is mentioned, very important, but so are the pre and post opportunities. So what we decided to do is to offer the land programs complimentary. So we have a wide variety of the French itineraries, 4 of the 5. We're not doing it on Colors of Provence, quite frankly, in the Ama Cristina, but the other 4 itineraries on select departures, both this year and next year, again, reserving with Jacinta by the end of this month, we'll give you that complimentary land package, right? So it has, when I say done well, we've seen lots and lots and lots of new reservations. This has really resonated with people. Now, go ahead. Yes, Jacinta.
I actually did mention this in my March newsletter. It is highlighted. It is a tremendous value. It's something I have never seen before. It's very high value. And it does apply to 4 of the 5 itineraries Sebastian has covered today. I will be sending some follow-up information about this. And I want to make a special announcement because next year is my company's 25th anniversary. If we do get a consensus on an itinerary, I have been asked several times now if I will join one of the groups next year. Normally I do in a big anniversary group getaway. I will say it right now officially, if we get a consensus and have an itinerary and a date, I will actually go with you. So we will do that in a follow-up conversation. Brian.
Nice. Cool. All right. You heard it here first. We're witnesses. Great. Thank you. That's very exciting. Also, it mentions at the last bullet point, and we'll hear more about this from our Danube webinar next week, but there are also 3-night Prague opportunities as well, but mainly the focus on France, but then again, there are dates that inclusive of Prague. Now, this is a summation of some of the other specials that are out there. Jacinta has this information. Yes, 23 is open, believe it or not. So you can reserve for 23. That seems like a coon's age down the road. So mostly we're seeing new bookings for later this year and into 22. Sebastian mentioned putting cruises together back to back. You know, what's happened is we've been hunkered down for so long that when people decide that they're going to take a vacation, guess what we're seeing? We're seeing people connect a couple of different cruise itineraries. So we decided, hey, that's happening. We're going to offer further inducement to get folks thinking that way by offering an additional 10% on the second departure. So that's out there as well. We talked about the land program. For 2022, we also have for the Christmas market cruises. If you're thinking about that, we have additional savings there. And then for our yes, Sebastian, jump in, please.
I just wanted to say, so far, the record on back-to-back cruises is 5. People have booked 5 in a row. So,
wow.
Ooh, okay. So the challenge is on. You need to beat 5 in a row. So do you hear 6? Do I hear 6? So, all right. Well, I did not know that. That's quite something. Wow. And then we love our solo travelers. So we want our solo travelers to come aboard with us. So we have typically the lower categories at only a 10% surcharge. Some of the smaller French ships have solo cabins with no surcharge, but guess what? Solo travelers sometimes don't want to be in the lowest category. So guess what we did? We offered and are offering through the end of this month the balcony accommodations with only a 25% surcharge, and that's we're finding appealing for our solo travelers as well. And so that's a kind of summation of some of the specials. A reminder, come join Sebastian, Jacinta, and I should say Jacinta, ladies first, Sebastian and I, next Thursday, March 18 at 12 noon. The 4 seasons on the Danube, you might say 4, yes, because each season, spring, summer, fall, winter, along with the holiday markets, they're all unique and distinct and have their own sort of appeal within each season. And Sebastian will talk about that. And then again, another hot itinerary for certainly the Douro River in Portugal. We'll do that on Thursday, March 25 at 12 noon. We already mentioned the Ama means love, but also the time we can pull up the questions here.
We've gone over time, but I see that some people are still hanging in there with us. So if we could get to questions, and I will be following up with everyone. So if anyone has questions, I'll get to those if they had to leave.
Okay. Margot likes my book recommendation. Yep, I'm looking at the questions. So I will take kudos for that. Margot likes Hemingway's Movable Feast. Thank you, Margot. Great as always. Love Sebastian's knowledge, enthusiasm, humor, and accent, which, by the way, I should tell you, Cindy, that is all the accent I know is fake, but nonetheless, no, it's completely real. I always tease Sebastian about that. Thank you, Cindy, and I agree with everything. Knowledge, enthusiasm, humor, and accent. And now you have to go on a cruise where he's the cruise manager, and it comes in spades, a lot, even more. And then Tim was Saint Mihiel, Saint Malo, the setting for all the light we cannot see.
Yes, Saint Michel was. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that's out of my knowledge domain, but there you go. There's the answer. And then Cindy, she's laughing. Cindy's laughing at my comment. And then, yes, I'll agree, a great book from Tim. Okay, so last chance for questions. I'm going to pull up the box again because sometimes people type them in. I'm going to do it one more time before we say au revoir. Very good. Okay. So thank you so much. And we do look forward to welcoming you on board. We're hoping, just to be totally candid and transparent, we're hoping, obviously it happens sooner than later. Rudy, our owner, is on record that he's thinking it's going to be likely in the August timeframe. So stay tuned. We're hopeful certainly for that. And then there is the contact information once again for Jacinta, her phone number there, the 916-897-9597, and JP at islandwaystravel.com. That's how you can be in touch with Jacinta, and she obviously is going to follow up with you.
Yes,
and I'll go back. And did you want to say some parting words, Jacinta?
I would like to thank our special guest, Sebastian, and we're looking forward to seeing you again next week. It's obvious that you have a wealth of information to share with us, possibly too much, but that's not a bad thing at all. So I want to thank you. It's been absolutely delightful, and we will see you again next week. Thank you, Brian Rodemacher, for managing the meeting. I know there's a lot of moving parts, sound and visual, and just keeping things on track. So thank you to all of the attendees, and I will be sending you a follow-up.
Thank you, Jacinta. Thank you, Sebastian. So say your best au revoir, Sebastian.
Au revoir, à bientôt. Wir sehen uns nächste Woche. So that would be in German for the next one.
Okay, all right. We'll see you next Thursday, Sebastian and Jacinta. And hopefully a lot of you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good afternoon. Stay well, be healthy. Bye for now.